There is a metal tray on my counter with a little handle sticking up from the middle of it. It is aluminum, it is cold to the touch, and it made a sound in the 1950s that every child in America knew. I am not going to say what it is yet. I am going to leave it right here, and we will come back to it near the end. Come on up, mind the low beam, and sit on the trunk by the window. I am Clara, and this is Clara's American Attic, where the ordinary things of a 1950s house get remembered properly. Today, 25 of them. Things that were in nearly every home, and then simply were not. We count them down to one, and I promise you the last one is the one you will want to talk about. 3 of them I want you to wait for. Number 2 is that tray on the counter. Number 14 is the one on this list that the old safety manuals warned about, and I will tell you why. And number 1 is the only thing on this list that a whole family did together at the kitchen table, and it is the one that people miss most. Before we start, tell me where you are watching from. I like to know. Number 25, rabbit ears. 2 telescoping rods in a V on top of the television set, and somebody in the family who was better than everyone else at angling them. A man named Marvin Middlemark invented them in 1953, working from the idea of a simple dipole antenna, and the invention made him a wealthy man. They sat on nearly every set through the television boom. They went away for the plainest reason on this list. The signal changed. Cable, then satellite, then the digital switch, and a pair of rods on the set had nothing left to catch. What I find worth remembering is how physical television used to be. You did not press a button and wait. You stood up, and you reached and you held your arm just so until the picture cleared. Number 24, the console television. Not a screen, a piece of furniture. A floor-standing wooden cabinet, sometimes with doors that closed over the picture tube, sometimes with a radio and a record player built into the same cabinet. In 1950, about 9% of American homes had a television. By 1955, it was more than 65%, and by 1960, nearly 90%. The cabinet was the point. A family bought it the way they bought a sideboard, to be looked at with the doors shut as much as watched with them open. It gave way to lighter tabletop and portable sets as picture tubes shrank and the wood furniture look fell out of fashion. The screen stayed. The furniture around it is what vanished. Number 23. The hi-fi console, its cousin in the same living room. A long, low wooden cabinet holding a turntable, a radio tuner, an amplifier, and the speakers, all in one, built to look like furniture first. The RCA Victor New Orthophonic was one of the staples of the 50s. You lifted a lid, and there was the record spinning inside the sideboard. These stayed popular into the 1970s, and then they were pulled apart. Separate components. A receiver, a turntable, a pair of standing speakers, sounded better and could be changed one piece at a time, so the sound did not vanish. The single cabinet that held it all did. Many of them are still in basements, too heavy to carry up the stairs. Number 22, the Transistor Radio. Texas Instruments announced the first one on October 18, 1954, and it went on sale on November 1st as the Regency TR1 for $49.95. That was a lot of money, because each of the 8 transistors inside cost $10 to $15 on its own. Nearly 100,000 sold in the first year anyway. A leather case was $3.95 extra, and an earphone $7.50. And that earphone changed the house. For the first time, a teenager could listen to her own music in her own room, away from the one big console radio in the living room that the whole family shared. The Smithsonian calls it the start of a teenage social revolution, and I think that is fair. Number 21. TV trays. 4 folding metal trays on a matching rack, first advertised in 1952. Swanson's frozen TV dinner came close behind, and the two rode the same wave, supper in front of the set. A newspaper review in 1957 called them folding fret savers, and probably the greatest boon to be set beside the relaxing American. The Smithsonian keeps one. They did not vanish because families stopped eating in front of the television. They vanished because the television moved into the kitchen, into the bedroom, then into a pocket. When the screen is everywhere, you do not need a tray that carries supper to it. The rack went to the garage. I think most of us could still find one. Number 20, the party line. By the 1950s, roughly 3/4 of American residential telephone customers shared their line with other households. Every phone on the line rang at once, so each house had its own pattern, one long and two short, say, and you learned to hear your own. Anyone on the line could quietly lift the receiver and listen to a neighbor's call. So, there were courtesies, you checked that the line was free before you dialed, you kept calls short so the neighbors could have a turn, and you did not listen in, or at least you did not admit it. Private lines became easier to get through the 50s, and by the 70s the shared line was mostly gone. With it went a whole kind of small-town knowledge that nobody signed up for. Number 19. The gossip bench and its cousin, the telephone nook. A small seat with a little table attached to hold the phone, a drawer underneath for the directory, which was large and heavy, popular from the 1930s through the 50s. It existed because the phone did not move. If the call was going to be long, you needed somewhere to sit. Some houses had a nook built into the wall instead, a shallow alcove with a shelf for the phone, the pad, and the book sold in catalogs. What ended both was a telephone small enough to carry off. The Princess phone, designed by Henry Dreyfuss for Bell Labs at the end of the 50s, fit on a nightstand, and calls moved into bedrooms behind closed doors. The bench in the hall had nothing left to do. Number 18. The Rotary Dial telephone, most of all the Black Western Electric Model 500, also designed by Dreyfuss, which was the Bell System's standard home phone from the 1950s all the way to 1984. Dial service had existed since 1919, but it did not become the norm in most American homes until the 50s. The wall version hung in the kitchen. The end of the dial began in 1963. With push-button tone dialing and a new desk set. But think of what the dial trained. You put your finger in the hole and pulled it round to the stop, and you waited while it whirred back. 7 times. A wrong digit meant starting over. Every number you called often, you knew by the feel of it under your finger. Number 17. The stovetop percolator. The default coffee pot of the 1950s. Water heated on the burner was forced up a central stem and rained down over the grounds again and again, and you watched it perk through the little glass knob on the lid. It had to be watched. Perk it too long and the coffee turned bitter, and everyone who drank it knew that taste. What replaced it took a while to arrive. An automatic drip machine had been invented in Germany in the early 50s, but it did not reach American kitchens in numbers until Mr. Coffee in 1972, with Joe DiMaggio in the television commercials. By the end of that decade, they were selling roughly 40,000 machines a day. The percolator went to the back of the cupboard almost overnight. Number 16. The carpet sweeper. A flat box on a long handle with brushes inside that turned as you pushed. No cord, no noise. Melville Bissell patented his in 1876, and his wife Anna built the company that made the name mean the thing. It is about 50 years older than the electric vacuum, and in the 50s it was still in most homes for the quick pass between real cleanings. It faded as vacuums got cheaper and took over the main cleaning, and Bissell itself moved with the times, bringing out a carpet shampoo and a shampooer in the 50s. But a sweeper has never really needed replacing. It has no motor to burn out. Which is why, If you look, a surprising number of them are still standing in closets and still work. Number 15. The clothesline and the clothespin bag that hung on it. Lines strung between two poles in the backyard and a cloth bag on a wire hanger that slid along the line as you went, so the pins were always at hand. Wooden spring pins, and in the 50s the first plastic ones. Wash day was a day, and the yard showed it. Two things brought the lines down through the 60s. The electric dryer, obviously, and, less obviously, air conditioning, which drew people indoors and off the back step, and a yard nobody sat in was a yard nobody strung a line across. I will not tell you the sheets smelled better. Did your family hang wash outside, or do you remember the first house on your street that got a dryer or air conditioning? I would like to hear when that changed in the comments. I will tell you that a whole neighborhood used to know it was Monday by looking out the window. Number 14, and this is the one I asked you to wait for, the Wringer Washer. A tub that agitated the clothes, and above it 2 hard rollers, powered, that you fed each wet piece through to squeeze the water out. Maytag's square aluminum washer with a powered wringer had led the market since the 1920s. In the 50s, it was still in a great many basements and back porches. Here is why the old manuals warned about it. The rollers did not know the difference between a wet sheet and a hand. A sleeve, a finger, a braid of hair caught in the cloth could be pulled in along with the laundry, and it is a well-documented household hazard of the time. Later machines added a quick release bar you could hit with your hand or your forehead to spring the rollers apart. Every woman who ran one knew where that bar was. Maytag began making fully automatic washers in 1949 at a new factory built just for them, and through the 50s the automatic took over in new homes. No rollers, no feeding, no standing over it. The wringer was not mourned. It was respected, the way you respect a tool that could hurt you. Many of them went to the farm or the cabin and ran for another 20 years. Number 13. The Laundry Chute. A little door in the upstairs hall or the bathroom wall, and down went the washing to a basket in the basement. They were common in American houses by the 1930s, and the post-war suburbs of the 50s were their last hurrah, in the colonials and the ranches with basements. Children loved them more than the laundry did. Two things ended them. In 1961, a fire at Hartford Hospital was traced to smoldering ash in a laundry chute that carried the flame up through the building, and the fire codes for chutes of every kind tightened after it. And the washer moved upstairs, next to the bedrooms, in the ranches and split levels that followed. A chute that goes nowhere is a hole in the wall. Builders stopped cutting it. Number 12. The Coal Chute and the furnace it fed. A small iron door low in the foundation wall and a truck that backed up and sent coal rattling down a metal chute into a bin in the basement. In 1950, coal or coke still heated just over a third of American homes, 14.5 million of them. Someone in the house shoveled it into the furnace and carried the ash and clinker out. By 1960, that 14.5 million had fallen to under 6.5, while homes heated by natural gas doubled from 11 million to nearly 23. Most families did not replace the furnace. They had a gas or oil burner fitted into the old one, and the shovel and the ash can went away in a single week. The little iron door stayed in the wall with nothing behind it. Number 11. The Backyard Incinerator, or the burn barrel. Households without trash pickup, or who wanted to cut the bill, burned their paper and packaging and scraps in a brick incinerator or a steel drum out back. It was especially common in the 40s and 50s. The smell of it on a still evening was part of the neighborhood, whether you wanted it or not. The cities ended it, and the reason was the air. Chicago began banning household trash burning in the middle 50s. Los Angeles banned backyard incinerators in the city basin from September 30th, 1957, as one of its first moves against smog. Trash pickup became the norm, and the brick box in the corner of the yard became a planter, or a pile of bricks, or a mystery to the next owner. Number 10. The milk box on the porch, and in some houses a milk chute built right through the wall. The milkman came daily, left full bottles, took the empties and the payment. In the 1950s, more than half of all the milk Americans bought still came to the door. Borden ran delivery advertisements in 1949, 51, and 58, and their 1948 bottle had a little pitcher of cream built into the neck that poured off separately. By 1944, 85% of American households already owned a refrigerator, and with the supermarket and the sprawl of the suburbs, a truck stopping at every door every morning stopped making sense. The boxes lingered on porches into the 70s after the routes had ended. Here is a number I like. In 1900, a factory worker labored 27 minutes to earn a quart of milk. By the 50s, it was 9. We are about at the middle, so let me stop and ask. Tell me in the comments which of these was in the house you grew up in, and which one is still sitting in your basement or garage right now. I read every one, and the comments on this channel are a better record of these houses than anything I can find in a library. Number 9. The Chenille Bedspread. Cotton with raised tufts of yarn in rows and swirls, and very often a peacock. The tufting technique was revived near Dalton, Georgia in the 1890s by a woman named Catherine Evans Whitener, and between about 1930 and 1960, Dalton was the chenille bedspread capital of the world. Highway 41 through the area was called Peacock Alley for the spreads sold by the road. The spreads peaked in the 50s. Then the same tufting machines that made them were turned to wall-to-wall carpet, and by the later 50s carpet had overtaken bedspreads as the thing the mills made. So the bedspread did not lose to a better bedspread. It lost to the floor. Run your hand over one sometime. The tufts are the thing people remember, more than the color. Number 8. Steel kitchen cabinets. Youngstown Kitchens, made by Mullins in Ohio, brought out porcelain enameled steel cabinets in 1940, and in the 50s Youngstown was the best-selling steel cabinet in the country, against about 62 competitors. Youngstown, Geneva, and St. Charles were the big three. White or pastel, gleaming, with chrome pulls, and they rang when you shut them. By the mid-60s wood had taken the kitchen back. Steel dented, it showed fingerprints, it could rust at the seams, and a scratch meant a professional refinish. The open-plan kitchens of the 60s wanted a warmer look. Youngstown tried a steel box with a wood door and could not turn it round. If you find a set in a farmhouse today, it is probably still square and still shuts with a ring. Number 7. The bread box, and especially the built-in one. A drawer or a tilt-out bin built right into the kitchen cabinets of houses put up in the 50s and 60s, sold as hygienic and modern and space-saving. It kept the loaf from the air and from the mice. Before it, and in older houses, a tin box on the counter with a roll top did the same job. It went away in the 70s for a reason that has nothing to do with the box. Sliced bread in a plastic bag, made to last on a shelf, did not need a box to stay fresh, and open shelf kitchens pushed out built-ins of every kind. A bread box is a solution to a loaf that goes stale. When the loaf stopped going stale, the box was just a drawer. Number 6. The hand crank flour sifter. A metal can with a fine screen and a crank on the side that turned little blades inside, so the flour fell light and even. It came on the market around 1919 and was in almost every kitchen through the 50s. The Androck Hand-I-Sift with 3 screens and a floured body is the one you will recognize. It lived beside the aluminum canister set, flour, sugar, coffee, tea, and grease, nesting and stackable, with black knobs on the lids. Both faded as flour came pre-sifted and recipes stopped asking. Ask a baker under 40 whether they sift and they will look at you. The sifter did not fail. The flour changed underneath it. Number 5. The Rotary Egg Beater. 2 beaters turned by a crank and a gear wheel, held in one hand while the other held the bowl. The first American patent goes back to 1859, and the Dover Stamping Company made the name so common that people simply asked for a Dover. By the 1870s, it could whip egg whites to a froth in about 5 minutes, and by the 50s, it was in every drawer. Electric hand mixers had existed since 1908, but an affordable one everybody recognized did not take over until the 60s. Then the crank went in the drawer for good. The Smithsonian keeps a rotary beater in its collection, which tells you something has ended. I keep one too, because an egg white does not know the difference, and the crank never needs an outlet. Number 4. The jelly glass. In 1953, Welch's started packing its grape jelly in a glass tumbler made to be washed out and used as a drinking glass when the jelly was gone. The first design had Howdy Doody on it because Welch's sponsored his show, and often there was a character printed on the bottom, so a child had a reason to finish the jelly and find out who was down there. Welch's ran 28 of these promotions between 1950 and 2002. The early jars were thick and heavy, made by an expensive full press method. In the 70s, a cheaper press and blow method made a thinner, more brittle glass. So the 50s ones are the ones that survived. A cupboard of mismatched jelly glasses was a cupboard that told you a family had children, and a budget and a sense of humor about both. I will say this once and then leave it. Folks ask where these attic things are written down, and there is a small book linked below with many of them set out plainly, with the dates and the names. It is there if you want it, and I will not bring it up again. Now, number 3, and this one came to the door. Number 3. The Encyclopedia Set, World Book and Britannica, 20 or more volumes, bound in leather, or something that looked like it, with gold lettering on the spines, on its own shelf in the living room. They were sold almost entirely door to door. In the 1960s, 90% of encyclopedia sales in this country were made by a salesman standing in the front hall. They were bought on installment, a little every month, because a set was a major purchase, treated the way a vacuum cleaner sold at the door for $50 to $100 was treated. I will not give you a price for the set itself because I could not find one I trust. What the set meant was plain. A family that had was saying its children would know things. That is a lovely thing to say with a shelf. The sets left when the home computer arrived, and then the internet, and a shelf of bound volumes stopped being where the answers lived. Most could not be given away. They are heavy, and the world in them stopped in the year they were printed. Which, if you think about it, is exactly why some of us cannot bring ourselves to throw them out. Number 2. Go and look at that tray. It is the metal ice cube tray with the lever, aluminum, with a grid of dividers inside and a handle you pulled up to crack every cube loose at once. A General Electric engineer named Edward Roberts filed the patent in 1949, and it was granted in 1952. They were sold under names like Magic Touch and Honeycomb, and the sound, that crack and rattle, was the sound of summer. It went because ice got easier. Flexible plastic trays you could twist, then silicone, then the ice maker built into the freezer door, and nobody pulled a lever again. But notice how small a thing it was to give up. There was nothing wrong with the tray. The refrigerator simply learned to do it, and a whole sound, the crack and the rattle into a glass, left the American kitchen without anyone deciding it should. Number 1. S&H green stamps. The Sperry and Hutchinson Company started handing out trading stamps in 1896 and opened the first redemption store in Bridgeport, Connecticut, the next year. The grocery store and the gas station gave you stamps for every dollar you spent. You pasted them into books, about 1,500 to 3,000 stamps to fill one, and you traded full books for things from the catalog. This is the one the whole family did together. Somebody licked or pressed the stamps to a wet sponge, somebody pasted, somebody counted the pages, and somebody, usually the youngest, turned the pages of the catalog deciding what the books would become. A toaster, a lamp, a set of luggage. The big years were the 50s, 60s, and 70s. By 1964, the company was printing 32 million copies of its catalog a year and 140 million saver books and redeeming more than 1 billion stamps every week. Think about that. 1 billion small green squares a week pasted by hand at kitchen tables across the country. It was not a gimmick. It was how a great many families got the things that were not quite in the budget. I put it at number 1 for a reason. Every other thing on this list was an object that a family owned. This was a thing a family did, together, slowly on a Sunday afternoon, toward something they all wanted. It vanished when the stores found cheaper ways to keep a customer, and nothing that replaced it asked a child to sit at the table and help. That is the part I think people miss. Not the toaster, the afternoon. So here is one thing to do this week, and it costs nothing. Go and find one of these. In your own basement, your mother's garage, a box in the attic, a sifter, a jelly glass, a pocket radio. Put it on the kitchen counter where you will see it, and ask the oldest person in your family what they remember about it. Then write it down, for you, not for me. Those stories are leaving faster than the objects are. And do tell me in the comments, the way I asked before, which of these 25 was in the house you grew up in? Which one is still in your basement? And which one I missed, because I know I missed some. I read every one, and I learned more about these houses from you than from any catalog in this attic. The lamp is on in the attic window, the way it always is, and the trunk will be here next time, because it is far too heavy to move. Come back up and sit. There is always something in a box up here that somebody forgot, waiting to be remembered. I will see you here.